Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane first wave of Super Friends action figures. We have Batman, Evil Batman, which is a silver platinum, Riddler, which is a red platinum, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, Lex Luthor, and Sinestro. This makes up the first assortment of what I imagine is going to be a lot of different assortments from the Super Friends cartoon show. Now, they're done in the same sort of style and scale as the Batman Classic TV Series 1966 Adam West TV show figures. Adam West did not voice Batman in Super Friends, but it's done in the same sort of, campy, Silver Age, 60s type style. The show took place between 73 and 84 or 85. I picked the full wave up at Target today, so let's take a look at the packaging. And this seems to be replacing the 66 retro figures. I really hope the 66 line is not done, because there's more vehicles, playsets, and figures that I'd like. But my guess is that door is closed and they're opening the new door to Super Friends. And there are a ton and ton of characters that they could pull from. So let's take a look at the packaging. As you can see, Super Friends. There are a ton of DC heroes that they haven't made yet, and they're on the way. This is Batman. It does look like it's the same body from the 66 line. He has a large Batarang and a Super Friends radio. Top, McFarlane Toys, DC. On the back, Super Friends, all the different colorful classic DC heroes. Here is Batman's barcode, if that helps. Next, we have the silver platinum chase variant of the Evil Batman. He's done in red, dark red, a little bit of orange. He's got red eyes, cloth cape, large Batarang, and that same Super Friends radio. McFarlane Platinum Edition. This is a silver platinum because it's the variant of the existing Batman. On the back, it's pretty much the same thing, and his barcode. Next, we have the Riddler, and he is a red platinum because he's not a variant of an existing figure. It's just a sort of chase. He's got the Legion of Doom radio, and some sort of question mark thing. Also see a collector's card back there. Each of the figures has one of those. Super Friends. Riddler's barcode. Now we have Hal Jordan Green Lantern. Super Friends. He's got a Bat Construct, Super Friends radio, collector's card. Super Friends. Green Lantern's barcode. Then we have Lex Luthor in his old school Super Friends outfit. He's got the Legion of Doom radio, and then a little weapon accessory type thing. On the back, his barcode, Super Friends. And finally, we have Sinestro. He's part of the Yellow Lantern, but he's in a blue outfit, which is how he looked in the cartoon and the old school comics. He's got a large sort of wrench type thing, Legion of Doom radio, Super Friends, and Sinestro's barcode. So with no further ado, let's open them up and check them out. Alright, now that we have these figures out of the package, here they are with all their accessories laid out. Each figure comes with a communicator or radio, and then each one has at least one character-specific accessory. We have Batman, Evil Batman, the Riddler, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, Lex Luthor, and Sinestro to start up the Legion of Doom. There's pretty much an endless roster of characters they can make from the show. The show itself is very, very cheesy. I watched the first episode and man, it was bad. I hadn't seen that thing since I was a kid. This line is the exact same style and scale as the Batman Classic TV Series line. It looks like 5 of these 6 figures use the same base body. Lex Luthor looks to be the only one with pretty much all brand new parts. They're basic figures, but they're a little bit larger than superpowers, which I much appreciate. A scale that's closer to what I really like. In this video, we're going to take a look at each of the figures individually. We'll check out their accessories, height, and articulation, and we'll compare them with a bunch of other relevant action figures. So let's start off with the man himself, Batman. Before we look at Batman, let's take a look at all their collector's cards. As you can see, each one has the character on the front. Batman looks the same on both the regular and evil versions. Then we have Riddler, Green Lantern, Luthor, and Sinestro. On the back of each of the cards, it's simply a checklist of Wave 1. And before we look at each of the figures, I thought we could knock out the height and articulation since they're pretty similar in all the figures. The smallest figure is going to be Luthor here, about 5.9 inches tall, and the tallest one, Sinestro, at about 6.2 or possibly 6.3 inches tall. And their articulation, which is going to be the same on pretty much all the figures. So, their heads can rotate side to side. They don't really go up and down much. There's a ball joint, but it really just has the rotating motion. Shoulders go out more than 90 degrees. He's got a single jointed elbow, goes in about 90 degrees. It does have rotation as well. His wrist can rotate around. He has a traditional waist swivel. Legs go forward about that far. Back, not much. He's got a single jointed knee, which also has rotation, and that's about it. Nothing to the ankle, but it's quite a bit more than the Superpowers line. So here's Batman. It's done on that same Batman body we've seen from the retro line so many times. He has this giant oversized Batarang and a sort of Justice League Super Friends communicator. So let's take a closer look. Start with his head. He's got white lenses in his eyes, black on his face, blue eyebrows, blue nose, semi-long ears, traditional bat symbol, yellow on the outside, black on the inside. When watching the first episode, there were some panels where they would just flip it around and it would be black on the outside and yellow on the inside. Traditional yellow utility belt with capsules on it. He's the same articulation as Green Lantern, and honestly, it's the majority of the same body. Single jointed elbows and knees. Cloth, soft goods, sort of crappy style cape. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. It just screams the Super Friends look. The shape of the head, the size of the ears, the wide eyes, the eyebrows, the black on the face. It does look kind of similar to the New Adventures of Batman cartoon. This really reminds me of the DC Direct Super Friends Batman they made many, many years ago. It's also pretty accurate to the comics of that era. Now to take a look at that giant Batarang and his radio. This giant Batarang is almost like a sword. It's so big. And then we have this little radio. It looks almost like a walkie-talkie. And it's to contact the rest of the Justice League or the Super Friends. Here's a look at Batman holding and getting ready to throw his Batarang. And then here, holding his Super Friends radio. Now to check out the differences, similarities, and reuse between the Super Friends Batman and the Adam West Batman Classic TV Series Batman. They share the same base body, so obviously the heads are different. The torso I can see is the same. You can see the same sort of little bit of muscular sculpt. The hands, fins, the arms are entirely the same. The belt is different, so they replaced that entire piece. The sort of diaper area is the same. You see the same wrinkles on the sides. And the boots look to be the same, although the point seems to be a little bit taller on the top of this boot. Maybe it's my imagination. And even the capes are pretty much the same. You can see that point at the bottom, very long. So, really just a different belt, different head, different paint job. But they do come out considerably different. That little bit of difference on the gray, the bat symbol, the head. It screams Adam West and it screams Super Friends. Here's this animated Super Friends Batman. Next to the animated, the New Adventures of Batman. Here's a look at this new Super Friends Batman. Next to all the Batman Classic TV series figures that utilize the exact same body. Ton of them so far. They're all pretty cool. The Super Friends one might be my favorite of them. He looks pretty nice, pretty clean, pretty sharp. And here he is with the DC Direct Super Friends Batman. This is actually the Batman, the blue version from the Rainbow Batman pack. He uses the exact same body as Super Friends version, which looks almost exactly the same as this guy, except for the Batman logo and maybe an ever so slightly darker shade of blue. Then, next to Mattel's DC Universe Classics Batman, this one is dubbed as Super Friends or Superpowers. And finally, next to a couple of McFarlane Superpowers figures that look similar to him, pretty much the exact same sort of color scheme, blue, gray, oval bat symbol, with a sort of black face on the blue cowl. Superpowers and Super Friends take a lot of inspiration from each other. Similar Silver Age, sort of colorful designs. Here's a look at this Batman next to the Batman Classic TV series, Burt Ward Robin. They work pretty good for Batman and Robin for the Super Friends show, until they make the inevitable version, utilizing probably this exact same sculpt with a new head. Now let's look at Evil Batman. It's pretty much the exact same figure, done in a red color scheme. Red cloth soft goods cape, red eyes, different shades of red on the outfit, the gloves, the trunks, the utility belt, large red batarang, and radio, so let's take a look. Start with his head. He has that same sort of creepy smile the regular one had. They're exactly the same. It's not just on the evil one, it's on both of them. He's got black on the face in the front, but his eyebrows and nose are not done in red. Sort of maroon, back of the cowl, cloth soft goods cape glued underneath, coming to the back. Bright red outfit. The bat symbol is black with sort of orange or red in the background. Utility belt, red or orange, and then dark red for the trunks, boots, and gloves. Kind of a cool design. Gives me kind of a Thomas Wayne vibe to a point. Probably mostly just the red eyes and the black mask. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. It's kind of interesting how this guy, the smile looks evil and creepy, and the other one just looks like he's happy-go-lucky and smiling at the fans and kids. Now for the accessories, which are exactly the same as Batman, except the large batarang is done, of course, a red color scheme, and the radio is pretty much identical. Here's this Batman holding and getting ready to throw that giant red batarang, and then holding that Super Friends radio. Here's this evil Batman next to the regular version, and they share 100% the same parts except for the paint job. This evil Super Friends version of Batman totally reminds me of the recent Batman 66 movie red suit poster release. And here's this evil red version of Batman next to all the Batman Classic TV series figures using the same base body. Now let's look at the Riddler. He comes with some sort of question mark gun, and then a Legion of Doom radio. It looks like Riddler from the Silver Age comics. So let's take a closer look. Start with his face here. That weird, sort of exaggerated forehead, receding hairline, hair to the back sticking out a little bit. Old school classic Riddler. Purple domino mask. One question mark on his entire outfit. That is based off the Super Friends cartoon look. Green and purple gloves. Question mark on the back as well. You can see the trunks, even though he doesn't have trunks on the outside, are the same as Batman, Green Lantern, Sinestro, all those other characters. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt, which does look a little bit weird. Now for his accessories. This looks like the top of a question mark made into some sort of gun. And then we have his Legion of Doom radio. One mildly interesting thing, each of these Legion of Doom radios are completely different. Different sculpt, different paint job, etc. You'd think they would just release the same one with each of the three villains. Here's a look at the Riddler holding that question mark gun. And then here he is, holding the Legion of Doom radio. Now to check out the differences, reuse, and similarities between the Super Friends Riddler and the Batman Classic TV series version. So let's take a closer look. Obviously, the heads are completely different. Let's go further down. The body's the same. You can see the sort of collar around the neck area. The belt is actually the same, but this one has a buckle painted on. They both have the sort of sculpted trunks, which is, I don't know, looks a little weird. The arms look to be the same at the top, and then of course the gloves are different. And everything else looks to be the same. These are not sculpted boots, just simply painted. Here's this animated Super Friends Riddler, next to the animated The New Adventures of Batman Riddler, in his ridiculous pink costume. And then here he is, next to all the different Batman Classic TV series Riddler figures. They all utilize the same base body. Some very minor differences. Here's a custom Edward Nigma civilian attire that I threw together, utilizing the Batman Classic TV series Platinum Unmasked Riddler and a Marvel Legends body. And finally, here he is next to the McFarlane DC Multiverse DC Classics Platinum Chase version of Riddler. This one is specifically based off his look from the Super Friends cartoon. Now that we've taken a look at all the Batman characters, let's take a look at Hal Jordan, followed by a couple more members of the Legion of Doom. Hal Jordan is Green Lantern, done on the same sort of base body buck as Batman and the Riddler, but looks pretty good. Hair brown and wavy. He's got the domino mask, which is signature to the way Hal Jordan's looks. He's got the old school comic Green Lantern logo on his chest, looking pretty good. White gloves, green and black suit, same basic articulation, a lot of shared parts. It is a very nice head and face sculpt, and I like that Green Lantern logo. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. They have the hair, the face, the domino mask, it all looks pretty good. And for his accessories, we have a green construct bat and his Super Friends radio. So, pretty basic, but it's basically a green bat. This will probably look pretty good with Guy Gardner. And then we have a Super Friends radio, which is a little bit different than Batman's. It's kind of interesting. Here's Hal Jordan with his bat construct and his power ring out. Here's the McFarlane DC Multiverse Guy Gardner holding that bat construct. A little bit small for him, but it's sort of one of the signature things he would use in the comics. And then here's Hal Jordan speaking into the Super Friends radio. And finally, here's the Super Friends Hal Jordan next to McFarlane DC Multiverse DC Classics Silver Age Hal Jordan. Very similar outfit. And if you take some of the other Justice League members like Superman and Wonder Woman they made in the Batman Classic TV series comic spin-off line, we've got a pretty cool Super Friends lineup. Batman and Robin, Green Lantern, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Bet you anything they're going to make this exact same Superman and Wonder Woman repainted in Super Friends colors in the next 2 or 3 waves. Now for Lex Luthor, the leader of the Legion of Doom. He comes with a crystallizer ray and the Legion of Doom radio. He's in that sort of old school look. The only other figure I can think of that was like this is a Mattel DC Universe Classics from a 5-pack. I don't have that figure. Wouldn't mind having in the collection. So, he's got that sort of smiling bald head like he's up to something. Very prominent eyebrows. As we go further down, he's got this pink or purple jacket, straps across it, and then green underneath. I feel like there are 3 different distinct looks for Lex Luthor. One in a business suit, one is power suit, and then one in this suit. Now, he doesn't have the trunks like the other guys, so this is actually a different body. Might be reused from something else, but he's the only one that doesn't have that sort of odd look down here and different legs. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt just looks like an old school Lex Luthor, up to something no good. Now for the accessories, we have a crystallizer ray and his Legion of Doom radio. Crystallizer ray, the yellow at the front, it's got the little black handle at the back. And then we have this Legion of Doom radio. His version has 2 buttons on it. Here's Lex Luthor holding that crystallizer ray, and here he is holding that Legion of Doom radio. And finally, we have Sinestro. He's basically an evil Green Lantern. He's part of the Yellow Lantern Corps, but he wears a blue outfit, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I much prefer the yellow outfit he wears nowadays. He comes with a pliers construct and a Legion of Doom radio. So let's take a closer look. Now, similar to Riddler, although even more exaggerated, he's got this big egg head, big giant skull. I think that's how he looks in his original sort of depiction. They've kind of gone away from that over the years. He's got the pink skin, eyebrows, pretty tall. Doesn't have pointed ears in this version. Then he has this sort of hokey blue suit. And this is how he looked in his first appearance way back in the comics, as well as in the Super Friends cartoon. You can see his hands, same color as his head. He does have a yellow power ring on. Same sort of trunks that Batman and Hal Jordan have. Boots are a little bit different. Same single jointed everything, etc. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. It looks good. Big, giant sort of forehead and head. Only thing that bothers me a little bit is the sort of hair here. It's not painted on the side that's sculpted up. The other side does not have that problem, but it's just very noticeable when looking at him directly from the front. Beyond that, it looks pretty darn good. Old school, classic Sinestro. And now for the accessories, we have the pliers construct, which looks gold, but I guess it's supposed to be yellow. Too bad this isn't actually hinged. It can work. That would be pretty cool. Maybe if it was in the multiverse line. And then we have this radio. Once again, different sculpt, one button, and a little bit smaller than the others. Here's a look at Sinestro holding his pliers construct. It'd be nice if he had two gripping hands so he could hold it with both at the same time. And then here, talking on his Legion of Doom radio. And here's the Super Friends version of the blue suit Sinestro, next to the Superpowers version of the same. Here's a look at these three Super Friends Legion of Doom members, Sinestro, Luthor, and Riddler, next to a few Batman classic TV series rogues by McFarlane, Joker, Penguin, and Catwoman, if you want to expand on your Legion of Doom, or have some team-ups. And here they are, with the Mattel versions of the same villains. Here's a look at the Super Friends figures, standing in the city streets. Colorful, old school, Silver Age type versions of these characters. Now let's check them out, next to some other action figures. Here they are, next to some McFarlane Music Maniacs. These are done the exact same style and scale as the Super Friends figures. Now let's check them out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how they fit in, both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which ones you can mix them with. Since they're McFarlane Super Friends figures, they're typically the 6-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of these smaller action figure lines I collect, and work my way larger. Here they are with some Jazzwares sporting figures, and some SH Figure Arts action figures. And now, with some Hasbro Marvel Legends and Mafex figures. Here they are, next to a clothing coat hanger. And here they are, with some Mattel and Mezco DC figures. Then, with both some Jazzwares and Mattel wrestling figures. And now, with some NECA and DC Direct figures. Next, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures and some Diamond Select toys. And finally, with some McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. So overall, it's a pretty cool wave. I definitely have very mixed feelings on ending the 66 line and starting the Super Friends line. I'm really happy to start the Super Friends line, but I was definitely not ready to end the 66 line. There's still plenty more things I wanted there, and it looks like we're moving on, and they fit in the same sort of scale and style, so you can sort of put them together as one big collection, but they're from completely different universes and multiverses from the DC world. I would say my favorite figure here is Batman. He looks pretty freaking good. And then probably Hal Jordan, then Riddler, then Luthor, then Sinestro. And that's not to say Sinestro's bad. He's pretty cool. The articulation is rather limited. Sculpts and paint jobs are pretty nice. And at least each one of them has two distinct accessories. Really curious what's going to come out in Wave 2. If I were to guess, I would guess maybe Joker, Robin, Superman, Wonder Woman, that type of stuff. There's plenty of reuse they can use to crank out a lot of characters. So this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll talk to you guys real soon.